Okay. Well, then we will, with smiles on our faces, move into item 4B. It's the review of the 2020 through 2025 5-year capital improvement program and fiscal year 2020 to 2021 capital improvement program budget. And I'll let staff say the rest of the details.
Through the chair, if I may, sorry for interruption.
Yes.
I was going to ask if anyone needs to have a break before we continue with the rest of the agenda. Seeing none, we're good to go. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Okay, I think we're ready for the staff report.
Okay, good evening, commissioners. Can you all hear me all right?
Michael, your volume is very low.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, so before you is a request for review of the fiscal year 2021 Capital Improvement Program budget, otherwise known as the CIP. We're reviewing it for conformance with the San Bruno General Plan pursuant to California Government Code Section 65401. This is an annual review of infrastructure-related projects for the city's budget. In accordance with California Government Code Section 65401, the Planning Commission must review the CIP and make a finding that is in conformance with the general plan prior to City Council adoption. The scope of the Planning Commission review is to evaluate the CIP projects for consistency with the goals, policies, and implementation measures outlined in the 8 elements of the general plan. The action is not to evaluate the technical aspects or the cost of the individual projects we're reviewing today. And a little bit about the general plan. The general plan is the city's long-term comprehensive vision for physical development in the city. It includes 8 elements that provide policy framework related to capital projects in the areas of land use and urban design, economic development, transportation, open space and recreation, environmental resources and conservation, health and safety, public facilities and services, and of course, the housing element. So the City Council will appropriate funding for projects that are planned for construction in fiscal year 2021. However, the CIP itself covers a 5-year planning period from fiscal year 2021 to fiscal year 24-25. The CIP functions as a planned work program for projects scheduled in subsequent years of the period. The CIP provides funding for capital projects that protect, preserve, and enhance the city's infrastructure, extend the useful life of public facilities, and improve or enhance city services. So now I'm going to go over and provide you a brief summary of this year's infrastructure projects that are under consideration before you today. The first one is the Commodore Tank Project. The city currently utilizes 8 water tanks within its water distribution system. These water tanks provide storage for the city-wide water systems in order to help balance differences in demands and supplies, provide emergency storage in case of supply failure, and provide adequate storage for fire protection. The Water System Master Plan that was adopted in 2012 has determined that Zone 3-5 would have a 1.4 million gallon deficit by fiscal year 2034 to 2035 due to the anticipated growth within this zone. If approved, this project would fund the design and construction of a new approximately 1.7 million gallon water tank to create storage in this zone for future demands. The preliminary location of this water tank is underneath Commodore Park. The second infrastructure project that's before you tonight is the Downtown Parking Meters Project. This project will implement the San Bruno Downtown Parking Management Plan, which was presented before you last year, which was approved by the City Council in January of 2019. This proposed project would install parking meters in the downtown area to regulate short-term parking. The installation of parking meters would push long-term parking into adjacent, longer-term surface parking lots. Details regarding the type of meters, rates, exact location, and the enforcement hours has not yet been determined for this project. The third project is the Crystal Springs Road Utility Underground Project. The California Public Utilities Commission requires Pacific Gas and Electric to set aside a portion of their utility receipts each year for use in undergrounding existing overhead utilities. This is commonly known as the Rule 20A Utility Undergrounding Rule. In February 11, 2020, the Council established an underground utility district on Crystal Springs Road extending from El Camino Real to Cunningham Way. Phase 1 of this project includes undergrounding overhead utility along approximately 2,200 feet of Crystal Springs Road from Donner Avenue to El Camino Real, and Phase 2 includes undergrounding overhead utilities along approximately 1,500 linear feet of Crystal Springs Road from Donner Avenue to Cunningham Way. The fourth project is the Pedestrian Safety and Traffic Calming Project. This project involves developing a local roadway safety plan, otherwise known as an LRSP, to address the unique roadway safety needs in San Bruno. The city was awarded the Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funding to develop this program. The process of preparing the LRSP creates a framework to systematically identify and analyze safety problems in recommending safety improvements. Completion of the LRSP will result in a prioritized list of improvements and is a requirement to receive future HSIP federal aid funding. The fifth project is the Tom Lara Field parking lot rehabilitation. The Lara Field parking lot is well utilized by visitors of City Park, and due to heavy usage, it is in need of pavement rehabilitation. This project will rehabilitate the asphalt surfacing, create additional parking spaces where feasible, and upgrade the accessible parking spaces for compliance with current ADA requirements. The sixth project is the Senior Center trash enclosure. The San Bruno Senior Center was originally constructed in 1987 and is typically visited by hundreds of patrons weekly. The center is also used for different city events, such as City Council and Planning Commission meetings, as you're well aware of. This project would restore the trash enclosure, which is in current disrepair and is no longer functional. This includes providing new screening for the waste containers so that you can't see them from view, and diverting waste spills to the sanitary sewer system, and constructing an accessible entrance to the enclosure. And the last project is the Pavement Management Program. This is actually an existing program that's ongoing. This program involves the repair and preventative maintenance of city streets. The condition of city streets is identified through an ongoing pavement management program called a PMP. The long-term goal is to achieve a pavement condition index, or PCI, score of 84, which would eliminate the city's deferred maintenance backlog. However, in order to achieve this, the program would need to be funded to approximately $9 million per year. The city's average score for its streets and roads is 66. Streets are selected for rehabilitation work based on their PCI score, functional class, which is their traffic volume, and other criteria. The PMP is designed to maximize pavement longevity with timely and cost-effective rehabilitation while working within budget constraints. So back to the staff report. In the staff report, you'll see staff's analysis of these 7 programs against the general plan. So if you could refer to those, you can get a sense for how these would implement the general plan. And staff is asking you tonight that if you agree with staff's analysis, that you make a motion and a second to adopt the attached Planning Commission resolution, finding that the proposed capital improvement program budget for fiscal year 2021 is in conformance with the City of San Bruno general plan. This resolution will be forwarded to the City Council and taken into consideration as they evaluate the city's fiscal year 2021 budget. Please note that this determination is not a green light for the projects themselves. And also a roll call vote is required for this. And lastly, because infrastructure projects are executed by Public Works, we have Public Works staff available with us tonight to answer any clarifying questions that you might have that would help you make your general plan consistency findings. And this concludes my presentation. And again, I'm available, and Public Works staff is available on this call as well, or this video, for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Michael. Does the commission have any clarifying questions for staff?
Through the chair, I have a couple.
Yes.
I understand that we're not voting on details of any of these projects, but just want to. I'm curious about a couple of things. The first one, the Commodore Tank project. How disruptive to Commodore Park would that construction be? Would the entire park need to be demolished in order to put a tank that large in? Are they thinking about putting in, is it something that they would have to dig up the outfield of the baseball field for a time and then of course restore it afterwards? Just a little bit of detail about what that's going to look like.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Ritchie. I am the city engineer for San Bruno. I can help answer some of your questions. So this project has not yet been designed, and so some of those details are unknown. I think we would of course attempt to have the least amount of disruption as possible, but it's in these even pre-design stages really hard to say what that would look like.
Okay, that's fair. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a comment about the fourth, the pedestrian safety and traffic calming local road safety plan. This has been a long time coming, and I'm very happy to see this. Our bicycle safety committee and pedestrian committee and the TSPC, work to do this work, but they do it in a patchwork fashion. And this having a program like this to take a comprehensive look at the whole city and put things and prioritize things is really going to be helpful. So I'm very, very happy to see that on the list. And then my last, I guess two more questions. The Tom Lara Field parking lot. I guess I'm guessing that's out of range of the aquatic center construction. Is that why this is a separate item and not part of that project?
That's correct. Good evening, commissioners. Public Works Director Jimmy Tan. It is part of the BRAC, the Recreation Aquatic Project, but then we had separated out in order to have that parking lot reconstructed first prior to the construction of the Recreation Center.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that. And then lastly, we've known for a while that we've fallen quite behind on our street maintenance, and that's not the fault of anybody here. That's not why I'm mentioning it. The $9 million per year that's required to get us back up to speed, score-wise, is that in perpetuity? In other words, the $9 million would get us there, and then by the time we finish that, the roads we started with at the beginning need to be done again, and it's a perpetual thing, or is we need to increase funding to $9 million a year to get us back up to speed, and then the cost would drop?
Sure, I understand your question. And we are given a grant by MTC to evaluate the pavement condition of our local or our city streets. And what they do is within a 5-year time frame, evaluate various scenarios, one of them being how to eliminate our deferred maintenance. And so that means bringing all the streets up into a good condition. I understand it's very challenging for any agency to accomplish that because of the amount of funding that's needed. But it is that $9 million per year for that 5-year period. And then after that, there would still be continued expenditures required to maintain, the condition of the road. Really, what you want to do is get the streets into a good condition, and then where you can provide preventive maintenance, which is a lot less expensive to administer than rehabilitation or reconstruction for roads that are failed. Those on a per square footage basis costs inordinately a lot more than preventive maintenance. So it's really trying to get to a goal where you don't have that different maintenance anymore.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are all my questions. I appreciate the clarity on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have any questions for staff?
Through the chair?
Yes.
I'll go ahead, Auros. Commissioner Harman.
I went first earlier. You're welcome to go.
It's okay. Okay, I'll go then. I don't know who in the city would be the one to answer, but I'll just, the very first one under the water infrastructure, I wanted to just check in about how is it currently the tank maintained and monitored?
So the first project for Commodore Tank, is that, I just want to make sure I'm asking the correct question.
Yes.
So a tank currently does not exist at this location. However, our water division does maintain the 8 tanks within the city that are used to serve the population.
Okay. I must have misread that. So there is not a tank currently right there. This is going to be a
correct. It would be a new tank.
Brand new tank. Okay, good. All right. And then the next one would be under the street rehabilitation. On the first one, where it indicates where it's implementing the parking meters, and it's a push, would push long-term parking into adjacent longer-term surface parking lots. Has there been any study or any tracking if the neighbors would be impacted? Once you start charging, will it go into the neighborhoods? Because people are going to start looking, they might think, okay, I'm going to be longer than the 30 minutes or longer than the 2 hours, whatever it may be. And when it talks about that they're going to adjacent and longer surface parking lots, where are they and which ones are they?
Right. So the thought for this project is to hire a firm to evaluate all of that, including the rates along downtown areas and maybe some of the sites, side streets that may be impacted by the implementation of the parking meters, in the downtown. So once we have the study completed, and we can, we will be able to determine all of those questions that you've asked just now.
Okay.
But currently, right now, we just don't have a lot of the information. But we understand too that if we do implement parking meters in the downtown, it would definitely push a lot of the vehicles to the residential areas too, and then we'll try to minimize that if we can.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then the facility upgrade. I think that question was out of the range. I had the same question on that. It's out of the range of the recreation project, and that's why it's being proposed in this way. Okay.
Correct.
And then on the senior center trash enclosure, I know that it's the trash enclosure, and I can't help but push the question just a little bit. That building is 33 years old. Is there any chance of it being placed for any painting? I mean, it's not chipping and peeling, but it is quite, the painting is quite antiquated from a point of it's not going to fit within the modernization of our park. And it is very southwest look, and as it is, doesn't have really attractive windows in the front. I'm just thinking, can there possibly be a potential painting to the building?
Yeah, so this is something that I can bring towards attention to the community services director, who currently manages the building and facilities division. So I can inquire whether any future painting is scheduled for this building. In regards to this trash enclosure, this was a result of the accident that happened, a few years back.
Yeah.
And we restored the corner of the building, but the trash enclosure there was an interest to actually increase and expand the footprint of the trash enclosure. And so that's something that we've been kind of working on to try to do that.
Okay. Well, I would appreciate that because the building really is quite small. It's not a huge project, but I recognize that everything costs and everything is time. But this would be the time to do it. You know, it's kind of like an applicant comes forward, we push the limit, push the bar a little bit, raise the bar a little bit for applicants to do the next step, whatever it may be. And that's what I'm hoping for our building. As you come down, it's a main building that you see, and to have it be attractive to look at. It's maintained, but be attractive to just blend in as they drive towards the park. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And let's see. My question was answered on the perpetual project of the other one. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other commission questions? Go ahead.
All right. So just to understand the Commodore Park tank project, I mean, the goal here is that basically it provides a buffer that smooths out demand in terms of the inflows and outflows. This is not, I mean, my understanding is that our long-term sort of overall water provision on the scale of a year is fairly solid given the city's history. And so this project is simply to make sure that this neighborhood, their kind of surge demand is met as the population there increases. Is that basically accurate?
Yes, and so our water supply is secure. That's the long-term projections for the water supply for the city as a whole. What the tank is doing is providing some of the demands of peak demands. If there were to be a large, emergency or fire flow situation, it would assist in those types of situations as well. As unusual as they may be, it would be helping to provide that supply.
Okay. Just making sure I'm reading the descriptions correctly. And I noted that, I know we have ongoing investments in the water infrastructure with the replacement of the water and sewer lines starting in the heart. I think I actually saw some notifications that a project was going in pretty close to me over at in the vicinity of First Avenue. And that's all already budgeted and hence is not showing up here.
That's correct.
Okay.
Those are previous projects
Right.
In other CIP.
Okay. Regarding the meter project, the description was, sorry. I guess it says details regarding type of meters hasn't been determined yet. With the scope of that study, this is somewhat maybe a personal thing. I rather like the completely virtual systems where you sort of minimize, you don't have posts in people's way along the sidewalk. And so I just wondered if that's already under consideration to do sort of a very minimal system where you punch your license plate in at a kiosk or through a phone app and then it's all observed with the automatic license plate readers.
Right, then you're absolutely right on the right path. And that's something that we've actually looked at. We've actually looked at several vendors already.
Wonderful.
Had some demonstrations of that. So yes, license plate readers are something that we're considering right now in order for enforcement.
Yeah,
and again, meters. A single kiosk where everyone just goes up instead of having individual, pay stations.
Yeah, it both seems like less disruption of the public space and possibly cheaper to maintain. So it seems sensible. That's great. Okay, I am glad to hear that. And then regarding the utility undergrounding, I wondered whether it is possible for CityNet to get in on some kind of collaboration with PG&E so that if we did want to get because my understanding is a fair amount of our cable lines are strung overhead as well, I think. And it seems like if we're going to dig up the street, can we get those cable lines buried so that they're not vulnerable to windstorms as well, and as well as having the opportunity to say, once we have sort of a CityNet, I don't know if the right term is a right of way, but that if we then do want to pull fiber through, we have the conduit. And And fiber in particular, my understanding is you can reasonably run it in proximity to alternating current lines, and because it's optical, it doesn't interfere, whereas the coaxial cable, that's more of a problem.
Right, so the project is to underground a lot of the overhead utilities along the corridor from Crystal Springs, along Crystal Springs Road from El Camino to Donner. That's the first phase. With that, if there isn't a fiber system, the city's net fiber system along that route, that's something that we could consider. We would have to talk to the city staff to figure, what their actual needs are, within the corridor.
Okay. Well, I guess, because like the document specified it was a PG&E undergrounding. So it seemed like it was about the power lines, but I just I know like budgets are tight, blah blah. There are issues, but it seemed like if we're going to approve spending some city money, I don't know if that's like if we're basically spending PG&E's money that's allocated to us for it, or exactly what the budgeting here is. But if we're spending money to dig up the street and bury the power lines, it seems like it would be better to also do the cable lines at minimum at the same time, and ideally be in a situation where we then have access to come back and string fiber. Because I don't know, this is not an area in which I have super deep expertise, but my understanding is it is typically possible once you have a conduit in place to pull additional lines through it without completely digging it up again.
Right, and so the PG&E it's not the only utilities that will be undergrounded. If there's, communication lines that are, within.
Okay, so that already would be planned, as if there are things like SB cable lines running along those, that would already be planned to be undergrounded in the same project.
That's correct, because the overall goal is to remove all of the wooden poles that exist along the corridor. So anything that are actually strung right now, along those poles will be undergrounded, regardless of whether it will be PG&E or not.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I guess if I could also clarify, these are Rule 20A tariffs, and so they are rates collected by PG&E that are meant for this purpose. So other than our contributions to things that the Rule 20A wouldn't cover, it is something that PG&E's rates would be covering. And they're often referred to as dollars, but they're not actually dollars. They refer them more as credits.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commission for staff?
Nope.
No? Okay. Well, in that case, we get to open it up to public comment again. So members of the public, if you would like to to express your comments or share anything, this is your chance. Go ahead and raise your hand, perhaps in the participants button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And Melissa, are you seeing anything?
No, I do not. We do have two members of the public, and to note, one is Council Liaison Marty Medina, and the other is a Public Works employee. So they are still considered members of the public, though, but to be technical, but no, they do not have their hands up.
Okay.
I just wanted to note them just to say hi more than anything. There you go.
Okay. Well, in that case,
oh, well, you know what? Marty Medina just raised his hand. So as a council liaison, I will bring him in. Just one moment. Councilmember Medina, are you able to hear us?
Yes, good evening. Only because I was called. I was just going to listen in, but I wanted to say good evening and thank all of the everybody for the work that they're doing, and I definitely appreciate it, and I'm sure the rest of the council does too. So thank you.
Thank you. All right.
And I see no other hands raised.
Okay. Well, in that case, we can entertain a motion to close public comment.
And take a roll. Be technical again. It's close the public hearing. I do just for the record. I'm a nerd. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. We will close public hearing with a motion.
I make a motion to close public hearing.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Chair Listen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Aye.
Commissioner Harman,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye.
You have 6-0 votes.
Okay. Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and call the public hearing closed. Let's see here. Do we have any discussion amongst the commissioners?
No.
Okay. Well, in that case, if we'd like to adopt the resolution, we can start with a motion.
I make a motion we accept the resolution for the approval of the capital improvement program.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Chair Listen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Aye.
Commissioner Harman,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye.
You have 6 votes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. That is passed.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you, Michael.